Looks like I'm live. Hello and welcome to another session, another cloud native development session. Today we gonna have a look as usual at some news items and then we do some hands-on. Hands-on is fairly low level today. Prodding around, like poking at container images and running containers. But before that, let's have a look at the news flash. Welcome to the stream, and I hope you can hear me okay. Let me know if you can't. All right, so first off, um, service mesh category. If you're into that, very nice little integration bit from GitHub for onboard. So yeah, if you are into service meshes, definitely check that one out. Stumbled upon that item here, I think today or yesterday. Um, Someone essentially showing how to write a CLI tool once in Rust and once in Go and comparing that. It's really not a shootout. It's more like, a very, to me, a rather objective comparison, discussing the pros and cons and essentially the bottom here, highlighting when or suggesting when to use what. This one is technically not news, but I really found it kind of like, um, you know, fell through the cracks last week, I guess. Um, no, thanks. I don't want to chat now. Um, yeah, a really, really useful collection of image scanning. Good practices. Uh, this one is if you are into GitOps, who isn't, right? Definitely check that out. Up on Twitch, a session, and yeah, I'm gonna watch it now. Have a look. This one is pretty much in line with what we're gonna do in the hands-on deeper dive, whatever, today. Essentially walking you through the different sandboxing and or workload isolation techniques available, comparing them a little bit to root, privilege separation, um, down to gvisor and Firecracker, and a little bit of advice down here. Very useful. Next one, again, relatively new, a collection of exposable resources, so stuff that we can make public on AWS. Nice one. Thanks a lot. Here, again, not technically news. That was already in May, but it's super useful. 10 most common mistakes using Kubernetes. Just to clarify, using Kubernetes itself is not a mistake in general, but there's things like resource requests. Hey there, SNES23. I'm not building as much like something from scratch. What I'm doing today is I'm using Dive and Synth to look at containers. So yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. But glad to hear that you're in Cloud Native. Very good. Keep it up. Um, this one is a really nice talk by Richie. Might know him. He works at Grafana Lab and has, in terms of Prometheus, etc., a really good overall knowledge and can provide directions. He's also co-chairing the SIG observability in CNCF if you want to come and join us. This one is a tweet storm, tweet thread, whatever, from this morning, really. Um, Rather nice, and maybe Adam wants to pile on here. Rather nice kind of decision tree or so, whatever you want to call it, for a GitOps-based CD pipeline. Good job. And last but not least, before we get into the hands-on part, last week I kicked off the AWS Container Security Survey 2020, and I'm gonna leave it open until end of September. But I do encourage you already now to go there. Might take, you know, 5 to 8 minutes. Most of these questions are really optional, so you can really like go through that um, very quickly. But it would be super awesome, and I'll do the same as last year. I'll just publish it on GitHub again, so you get both the raw data and the aggregated results. Then, all right. With that, the news flash is over. So let's get into it. So the use case is as follows. You have the simplest case, just some container. You want to have a look at that, trying to assess what's in there, both in the container image, so essentially, the tar file with some JSON metadata, and the actual running container. I remember container is essentially just a process group, right? And we're going to use two tools. The one is called Dive, the other one is called Synth. Dive is a really interesting tool that allows you to inspect the layers on the content really of a image. So yeah, let's first do that just to show you what I've got here. A couple of images, and we're gonna use this jump one here because I need curl in there. So let's dive into that. Into that container image. So you see the layers here, and I can't really see that nicely. It's a little bit too much. Now it's better, right? So you get a really good idea what's going on in there, overview, and you can have a look at the concrete contents of that image, assess what's going on there, and you can filter and do a number of very useful things directly from the command line. It's always a good idea to have a quick look at the image there to assess what's going on. And yeah, I didn't really check out if there is a scanning integration or whatever, but it would be cool to scan it out of the box. The second part, or the second tool that I want to encourage to use here, it's actually my fault. Synth tool that yeah, I agree. I agree, SNES 23. I agree. Dive looks good. Unfortunately, my tool that I wrote a couple of years ago, not so fancy. It's just a very simple command line tool, but it allows you to have a look at what's going on in terms of namespaces and C groups, so kind of like peeling back a little bit. That's usually not necessary, but I think my theory is that if you want to excel, if you want to be really good and effective on a certain layer or a certain level, then you have to be knowledgeable to some extent concerning the layer below it. So in this case, we're doing a Docker run, and I would say everyone can learn that. Pretty straightforward. But what if you're troubleshooting? What if you're thrown into an environment where you don't have much, but you always have these basic building blocks, right? You always have Linux namespaces, C groups, etc. So I'm not saying this is the only tool. I'm just using it because I'm familiar with that. So we're going to use synth-on is essentially this very simple container here, right? So let's start the container based on that image. All right, running in the background -d and just sleeping for a long time. So if I do docker, maybe docker, yes. All right, it's running, and now I to yank that one here. So now what we're doing is we're jumping into that container -us root, right? Target is just the name of the container. And there we are, right? There's the sleep that we see that I used early on just to keep it alive, just to keep it running. And yeah, we're in there. So now I'm gonna install Syn, which essentially boils down to pulling the binary from GitHub, right? So I have that there, and Synth is now ready to go, right? So if we execute Synth, we're in the container, remember, just have a look at all the namespaces in there, right? And I can go further and have a look at a Synth namespace, right? For example, this one here, right? Why not? And there, and again, apologies for the rendering here. So the actual rendering would look more like that. Yeah, one way or the other, you don't really see it. This would be the C groups here, CPU, memory, etc., etc. And don't really see it nicely, but here's the PID and the parent PID. And let's go up again. If we wanted to have a look, C group, PID 1, PID not found, okay, whatever. How about 35, 3, PID not found, okay, I have no idea why Synth doesn't like that now, but I'm not gonna play around too much with that. So essentially, what I wanted to show you, should have probably done a dry run on that before, just to make sure that it actually still works. I haven't touched that tool for quite some time. So essentially, that was the output that I wanted to show you. And so then you can, based on the PID and the respective C group, you can drill down and essentially have a look at that. I can also monitor it and kind of like refresh it. Yeah, I agree. It's very low level, but it's useful, right? You can just use it in any container environment. And these are definitely not the only two tools. There are tons of great tools out there that you can use. It's mainly, I suppose, a matter of being aware of the options and yeah, making sure that you can jump on a certain level if you have to. All right. Yeah, exactly. That's what they were saying. All right. Unfortunately, I will have to cut it short today. Upcoming meeting. Start earlier next week. And thanks a lot for dropping by. And if you have any suggestions in terms of topic, hit me up, send me an email, or direct message me on Twitter. The direct messages are open. All right. Thanks a lot for dropping by. And yeah, if you have suggestions for tooling as well, yeah, let me know. Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye now.